Hey, yo, welcome to my channel. Um, Today I'm going to talk about. I just watched the movie John Wick 4. Um, I think it was the ending scene which brought me to realize it. Brought me to realize. Um, I, it looked familiar. Where John Wick. Spoilers. If you haven't watched John Wick 4, that is John Wick 1 through 4, or especially 4. Please do not watch this. But if you don't care, fine. Anyways, I'm going to say this basically this. It's the last scene, it's essentially in John Wick 4. When he was on the stairs, it kind of was reminiscent of the anime Cowboy Bebop. And I didn't think about it until it was that scene when he was on the stairs. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Why does that look familiar? Why does this whole almost plotline, I want to say, almost look oddly familiar? I mean, Cowboy Bebop, Spike, basically, of course. If you haven't watched Cowboy Bebop, again, I'm sorry, apologize, for the spoilers. But in any case, it's a really good anime series. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. Where basically he turns out to be a bounty hunter, of course, but in his past life, he was a well-known hitman that had a hard time dying, basically. He was a well-known hitman that essentially, or lieutenant, however you want to call it, in the syndicate, aka some kind of sort of mafia syndicate, basically. Similar to what the triads are, or the Yakuzas, whatever it may be. In any case, leaves, joins the bounty hunter program, and then comes back because of the fact of one of his former friends, aka the one that Sid, that basically betrayed him, brought him back to go after him, basically, and anyone else within the syndicate, essentially. And it was kind of odd. Now, of course, I'm talking about the anime version, not the Netflix live action version, of course. That was, unfortunately, I could see why they try to change the things here and there on their take, but honestly, it seems like that's what they do. Every time they try to do a live action version or live action remake of an anime, it never seems to work out really well. Hopefully One Piece turns out to be good, but in any case, it was in that situation where John Wick kind of reminded me of Spike a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute, he was a hitman, got out of the business, got out, and was brought back in. And essentially for each number 2 and number 3 of John Wick, the movies, going against essentially the syndicate. And number 4 essentially came out to the point where it was to the point where the only way to get out of the syndicate is to basically kill one of its high-end leaders, essentially. And then it came to a realization, I'm like, that aspect of the anime plotline of Cowboy Bebop, reminiscent of John Wick, made me realize, was that the reason why Netflix made a live action version of Cowboy Bebop? Was it because of John Wick 1 and 2, specifically, and 3 for that matter, that they were like, hey, wait a minute, we can capitalize on this because the plot lines almost are similar. Why not? But in any case, that scene basically at the end at Cowboy Bebop, Spike basically kills Vicious. Pretty much, he's on the verge of dying. Pretty much dies on the steps. Similar to John Wick, goes through this whole ordeal of battling everyone and anyone to get to the leader, basically, in a ways. I forgot his name. It begins with the name Marquez, I guess. The Marquis. And basically, even though he doesn't go against the Marquis, ultimately he goes against the delegate until finally the Marquis decides to take the final shot. And of course, Wick planned it out that, he would save that last shot for him, but he would have to survive long enough just to shoot him, basically. But after that, he kills him, knowing full well he's going to die, decides to die on the steps, basically. And I was like, wait a minute, that's when I realized, wait a minute, the parallels are so uncanny. I'm like, all right, you know what? Came to the realization that almost most of Keanu Reeves' movies, since The Matrix, has been based off of anime or some form or variation of the anime plot lines, like The Matrix, coming off of Ghost in the Shell, John Wick, Cowboy Bebop, much of some others. There's some other movies he's been in, which I haven't seen recently, to be honest. But it's like it's almost uncanny in that nature. To the point I realized, like, you know what? There are some movies nowadays outside like the Marvel comic book movies, Marvel DCU universe, Mission Impossible for that matter as well too. Those series and Fast X, Fast and the Furious. Sorry, a lot of these other action-packed movies in a ways are also geared towards of some parallels to some anime or Japanese cinema. And Akira Kurosawa, phenomenal storyteller and director. If you've ever seen any of his movies, I highly recommend them. There's always been some adaptation made off of his movies. I mean, Star Wars was one aspect as well too, if you realize that. Even Lucas has mentioned himself, like he's taken pieces of Kurosawa's movies and just not incorporate, but like redefined it into Star Wars. But then, of course, every one of these movies and stories, for that matter, all defined from what else? The greatest playwright, of course, Shakespeare. You'll see all of his playwrights of love, agony, betrayal, power, accumulation of power, jealousy, etc. It's all defined like through Shakespeare's works: Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, Othello, etc. onwards. I can't remember all of them. They just go beyond me, basically. And well, actually, wait. There was Macbeth, Othello, Romeo and Juliet, of course. I forgot the other movie, to be honest with you. The one where the son's father dies and he takes vengeance, where his father basically was the one that killed him. I forgot the name of the movie, or I forgot the name of the play. Thank goodness for Google or online search on the internet. Comedies, tragedies, I forgot what it was. Hamlet, that's it, Hamlet. And of course Henry VIII, King Lear, Midsummer's Night Dreams, of course, too. The Tempest was another great one, great story. If you haven't read these, of course, these plays, by far, I ask you, you should read them. Don't watch them. You can watch them in a Broadway or a live action, play somewhere around there. I suggest you read them first before you actually go see them into some play or something like that. If you haven't, read some of this stuff while going to high school. But in any case, it's one of those things where I just realized that some of these movies, that some of the original movies and better movies can come off of some of these animes. Honestly, I'm still waiting for something to be based off of Akira. Phenomenal anime movie, just like Ghost in the Shell was. You could derive some aspects of gaining the plot line, essentially, to the point where I think you could say that it was by far, it changed the genre, let's put it that way, of course, of Japanese anime and how people viewed anime at that point, quite honestly. You've got like secret governments, human experimentation, human evolution, pushing in for human evolution. And I thought that was what Lucy was basically in ways as well too. Like, I think Lucy, the movie Lucy, which had what's her name, Scarlett Johansson playing in that movie, was sort of loosely based. It seems like it was loosely based on Akira. Sadly, it didn't do really well. I guess the storytelling could have been done a little bit better, in a ways. But it's more of a case where, let's put it this way. Um, some of these plot lines that you come from these Japanese cinema, or more of anime, Japanese anime, more than anything else, can be defined to the point where like they still derive off of other uh, base base points or baselines. Sorry, all these. I'm going off the rails here. Not going off the rails, but going off to the point of like I. So one of the things is, of course, if you see my videos, see my channel, my prayer videos, I don't rehearse this. I just go off the cuff basically. But it's one of those things where, of course, like Japanese anime, their plot lines, their storylines, of course, are based off of other prior historical plays and stories. Uh, Specifically, I mean, everything you see right now and see out there outside of the comic book movies, I mean, there's some derivation of it, anyways. Um, Shakespeare pretty much wrote for it basically at that point, and like he defined it to the point like you realize like, oh, this is about tragedy. This is comedy, betrayal, etc. Basically, so it's one of those things where I kind of miss that originality with some of the storylines and some of the movies that are coming out. Like there's not a whole lot of originality, quite honestly, which I could see why. Like um, maybe Indiana Jones. I haven't watched Indiana Jones and the fifth movie of Indiana Jones. I forgot the name of what it's called basically, but well, actually, let me look at the name of the movie. Indiana. And the Dials of Destiny. Again, I haven't watched it, so I can't say anything about it. Might as well wait for it to come on streaming. I mean, honestly, like a lot of these movies that now are coming out, they're not doing well in the box office. Why? It's either one, the writing's not so good, or two, now with all streaming that's out there, people are like, why go to a movie theater? Why pay $40 when I'm already paying $40 a month anyways, or whatever it may be, depending what you're paying for, and it might just come out 2 or 3 months later on a streaming service. Honestly, we saw what happened with Dune, the first Dune, the remake, of course. HBO decided, or Warner Brothers decided, you know what? Let's just push it out to HBO Max versus going out to the movie theaters. Didn't really do so well, but at the same time, you had a lot of HBO Max subscribers already in place at that point, anyways, as well too. I think that's what Netflix is doing, and Amazon's trying to do that. Disney's starting to realize that, I think, and it put more sort of to the point of like, what they're realizing now. A lot of their shows and movies are going to be a little bit held back because of the writer's strike and now the actor's strike as well too. So that's why there's stories of the what's that called, the Ms. Marvel is now going to be airing ABC because you need some original programming, and like people don't have Disney or Disney Plus, so they're gonna put some of those shows onto ABC, so that they'll have some fresher aspects of ABC, the network, basically, so that they'll gain some viewers or keep the viewers in place at that point. Give me 1 second. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. As far as the Writers Guild, Screen Actors Guild, as well as the Writers Guild strike, I'll have another opinion. I'll put another video out there about that much later. But right now, it's more of a case of like, I'm just trying to show you the correlation between some of these new movies and how they're still just recycled plot lines. That's pretty much what it's coming down. It's like a lot of recycled plot lines. And you're not seeing any originality. I wish, if you're going to recycle them much better, at least. These remakes, I'm like, come on, you might as well just recycle the plot line. But if you're going to recycle the plot line, make it much better. John Wick 4, honestly, I enjoyed it, but starting to see, it was like, it's the same thing that was 3 and 2, basically. I'm like, nothing original. Nothing truly original. And I think that's why they had to kill it at that point, basically kill off the character. it'll be interesting to see what some of these other movies are coming out, some of the original movies, how well they are at that point as well too. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think John Wick was sort of a recycled plotline from Cowboy Bebop, or maybe some other aspects of some other show or movie, or play for that matter? Which most likely was, anyways. Do you think some of these new movies that are coming out there are still more of a case of horrible recycling of the plot lines, like they're not being well written, or two, the writers just don't understand, etc.? Or is it to a point where, like, I think, do you think it's just that's just it? Like, there's no new plot lines, there's no new format of engaging the viewers with the story entirely. There's no new nuance to create that that excitement for the viewers of the plot lines, of the movies, of the shows, whatever it may be. Again, if you enjoy my content, enjoy my videos, enjoy my channel, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. If you have subscribed, I thank you for that. Please also, if you, with this video, I know, again, if you see my other videos, usually I just rant on talking about something without anything in planned ahead, because like I really do this unrehearsed. Maybe I should start rehearsing. If you think I should, maybe leave it in the comment section. I welcome feedback. Put it that way. I welcome feedback. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and of course unrehearsed. Until next time.